Welcome to Through the Roof, where we explore life inside the walls we call home and the lives we build within them. I'm Ruth, property professional, storyteller and lover of all things home. Each week, we'll open the door to real stories behind the scenes of the property industry, design, inspiration and practical tips for shifting house, creating calm spaces and keeping your home safe, secure and beautifully comfortable. Because whether you own, rent or simply dream, everyone deserves to feel at home. So make yourself at home. You're listening to Through the Roof.
Thank you for joining me for another episode. I have been away for a little while and so there's been a little gap. I'm so glad that you've joined me again. This episode, I want to do the weight we carry at home. There's a common idea that home is where we go to rest, where things are easier, softer and safer. And for many people that is true. But there's another side to home that we don't talk about very often, the weight. Not always visible, not always spoken about, but very real. Because sometimes home is where the expectations live. It's where the roles are quietly assigned, where responsibilities accumulate over time, where emotional labour often goes unseen. In Australia, research shows that even in modern households, one person, often women, still carries a significantly larger share of unpaid domestic and emotional work. Things like remembering appointments, managing routines, keeping everything running smoothly, the payments of the bills even, and most of it happens in the background, not seen by others, unnoticed. There's a kind of invisible checklist that exists in many homes for everybody. It's what needs to be done, what needs to be remembered, and what needs to be held together. And it doesn't always get put down. Even in moments that are supposed to feel restful, even late at night when the house is quiet and the lights are off, there can still be a mental list running. And that's the weight. It could be the lawns need to be mowed, that winter is here currently in Australia and the grass is too wet, but we know we've got to do it and it still needs to get done. But it's not just practical items. Sometimes the weight is emotional. It's the feeling of needing to keep the peace or be the strong one in the family or to hold space for everyone else without having space for yourself. It can be subtle, but over time it builds, and yet people continue to carry it because home matters, because the people in it matter, because there's love there, even in the heaviness. I think it's important to say this out loud. You can love your home and still feel the weight of it. Those two things can exist together, but not always for a long time. Maybe the goal isn't to pretend the weight isn't there. Maybe it's to start noticing it, to acknowledge it and to share it. Again, the weight often falls on females. Males will often say, the outside job is mine, and yet they don't have to deal with that every day, only on weekends and sometimes only once a month. To have the male in the household in particular stand up and start doing their share of the parental duties can make a huge difference. It's not babysitting, let's be clear. Parents are two. It takes two. It doesn't always have to fall on one person to be doing the cooking all the time, the cleaning all the time, the running of the household, and then be expected to also run a full-time job in addition in the background and then come home to that unpaid servitude. Parenting and house roles are shared and need to be shared realistically. To let it be something that doesn't have to be carried alone, because home shouldn't just be where things are held together. It should also be where things are allowed to soften, where people are allowed to rest, and that includes the one who's holding the greatest role and weight, not just physically, but emotionally too, where the weight can be set down even for a moment. And maybe that starts with something simple, a conversation, a pause, a recognition, because sometimes the most powerful shift is at home, in simply being seen. So have a moment and just consider who holds the biggest role at home. Should it be just on that person? Is it acceptable that just because they haven't complained that it can continue being that way? Are there roles that should be shared more equally? not necessarily physical as doing the bins falls on the male or the lawnmower falls on the male. Why can't the role of dishes, the role of paying the bills, the role of cleaning, the role of picking up the kids, dropping off the kids, booking in the childcare, cancelling or making those appointments for swimming, taking them to sport. Maybe it's even things like bringing home flowers, thinking about what needs to be bought. Cleaning items only need to be bought generally monthly instead of weekly, even when the pay is weekly. Filling up the cars with petrol. Think about how many roles there actually are in a household and how many of those roles you actually arrange. And no, it doesn't mean having that person who is significantly in control of it all, writing up a list and doing all the thinking so that you can then take on that role. That's just as hard and often makes them burn out. It's harder to then come up with that list, and you shouldn't need to be told. As an adult, you should know what roles are needing thought behind it, taking the reins and simply doing your share. Doesn't matter whether it's gender oriented, the share at home should be shared. Anyway, that's food for thought. I hope you got something out of this particular episode. Join me for the next one. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow Through the Ruth wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've got a story about your home and your experiences, I would love to hear from you. You can reach out ruth@thepmboutique.com.au. So until next time, take a deep breath, look around and remember, home is what you make it.